Hello and welcome. Today, forget the classroom just for a moment. We're doing a deep dive, pulling back the curtain on something absolutely essential, but often hidden.
Right, the administrative engine, the part that makes schools actually run.
Exactly. You picture teachers, students, learning, but underneath all that, there's this huge, complex, mostly unseen operational side.
Mm-hmm. A whole framework supporting everything.
And our source material for today, it's called The Efficient School, How AI is Streamlining Educational Administration, really zeroes in on this hidden world.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff.
So our mission here is to unpack how AI automation is tackling these vital school operations. And it's not just about making things, easier.
No, it's about freeing up time and money.
Resources.
Right, resources that can and really should go back to the core mission, teaching and learning. And the source points out, right now, June 2025, we're actually seeing institutions starting to do this, especially the big public school boards like we have across Canada.
They're leveraging AI. For what specifically?
It's their key tasks, yeah. Things like scheduling, managing attendance, resource allocation. It's a big shift from the old manual ways.
Manual ways that probably struggle with how complex schools are now.
Definitely. They just don't scale well.
Okay, so let's start there. Understanding the scale of the challenge. The source uses this great metaphor, the administrative iceberg. What is actually lurking beneath the surface? What are these huge administrative loads schools deal with?
Oh, it really is an iceberg. The classroom's just the tip underneath. Well, first, there's the scheduling labyrinth.
The labyrinth sounds daunting.
It is. I mean, imagine manually building the master timetable for a big high school. You've got hundreds, maybe thousands of student course requests.
Okay.
Then teacher qualifications, their availability, room capacity, labs, gyms, graduation requirements, lunch breaks.
Wow. Okay. The list just keeps going.
Yeah. It's this massive puzzle. The source calls it a combinatorial problem. And putting it together manually, it takes weeks, sometimes months of painstaking work just trying to fit it all together without conflicts.
Weeks. Just to figure out who goes where, when. That's a staggering amount of human effort.
It really is, and that's just the main timetable. Beyond that, you have other major logistical hurdles.
Like what?
Well, think about school buses. Optimizing routes for thousands of kids, trying to be efficient with time, fuel, capacity. It's a constant balancing act.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And then daily stuff, like managing substitute teachers. A teacher calls in sick first thing in the morning.
Chaos ensues.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
You need to find a qualified sub, fast, get them assigned. The source specifically mentions that morning scramble as a major pain point for schools.
I can absolutely picture that. Okay, so people logistics.
Yeah.
What about managing, actual stuff, supplies, buildings?
Right. That falls under resource management. School leaders have tight budgets, right? They need to allocate limited funds across so many competing needs.
Textbooks versus tech versus repairs.
Exactly. Plus, managing inventory supplies, computers, projectors, and optimizing how buildings are used. Are classrooms empty when they could be used? Are labs booked efficiently? It's about stretching every dollar, every square foot.
Makes sense. And I'm guessing there's just a mountain of simple, repetitive tasks, too.
Oh, a huge mountain. Repetitive administrative tasks. The source estimates these take up thousands of hours every year in a school or district.
Thousands. Doing what?
Daily attendance tracking, processing admissions forms, new student enrollment, handling transcript requests, sending out routine parent communications, permission slips, field trip info.
All necessary stuff,
But incredibly time-consuming when added up. Individually small tasks, but there are so many.
So thousands of hours essentially spent on admin, not directly on teaching or supporting students. And all this must generate data, right? Which probably creates its own work.
You got it. Data and reporting demands. Schools and boards have to track everything: student achievement, attendance numbers, financial details, staffing levels.
And report it all up the chain.
Exactly. To parents, the local community, government ministries, they need accountability. But managing all that data securely, accurately, and then compiling the reports needed, that's another significant administrative burden in itself.
Okay, so this iceberg isn't just about things being inefficient. It's a fundamental drain. It pulls people and money away from the core job of education.
That's the core issue, yeah.
And that affects you, the listener, because it shapes how well schools can actually focus their resources on, the learning part. That hidden work impacts the visible classroom.
Precisely. Improving efficiency isn't the goal itself. It's the means to redirect that energy, those resources, back where they matter most.
All right. So that's the problem space, the iceberg. Now, how is AI starting to melt it, so to speak? Let's go back to that first big one, the scheduling labyrinth. How does AI bring intelligent scheduling to the table?
Well, AI-driven optimization is almost perfectly suited for this. Instead of a person trying to juggle, a dozen constraints sequentially over weeks, an AI system can take all of it in at once. Student choices, teacher contracts, prep times, room features, lab needs, sports schedules, course prerequisites, everything.
It processes all of that simultaneously.
Yes, it digests this massive data set of constraints and relationships. And here's the key part. It can generate multiple optimized, conflict-free scenarios.
Multiple options. And how fast?
Instead of weeks, the source says this can take just a matter of hours.
Hours versus weeks. Okay, that's a game changer just for saving admin time.
Yeah.
But you said multiple options. Is it just about speed?
No, that's the other powerful piece. Speed is great, but the ability to model different options is huge. Admins can look at several AI-generated timetables.
Like compare them.
Exactly. Maybe one is optimized purely to minimize student conflicts. Another might prioritize access to specialized programs. A third could focus on balancing teacher workloads. They can then use their human judgment, their educational expertise, to pick or tweak the scenario that best serves the students.
Ah, so it's not just automating the old way faster. It's enabling better, more strategic decisions.
Precisely. It shifts from manually solving a painful puzzle to strategically choosing the best possible solution from several optimized choices the AI presents.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
What about student attendance? You mentioned that. How does AI make that process smarter?
Attendance is another area with significant potential. Now, the source does mention things like computer vision for check-ins.
Like facial recognition?
Potentially, yeah. But it's very quick to point out the major privacy concerns there. Big ethical questions. We can circle back to that.
Okay, definitely need to talk about privacy. So, focusing on what's practical and happening now, what's the main AI application for attendance data?
The immediate powerful use case, according to the source, is analytics and predictive identification.
Predictive?
Yeah. AI systems can analyze attendance data, current and historical, looking for patterns. Patterns that might be totally invisible to a human just scanning spreadsheets.
And what kind of pattern?
Critically, patterns that indicate a student might be at high risk of becoming chronically absent. It can predict that risk based on early warning signs in the data.
Predicting risk, so you can intervene earlier.
Exactly. That's the shift. Instead of reacting after a student has missed a lot of school, the system can seg them much earlier. It generates an early alert.
Who gets the alert?
Counselors, administrators, support staff, whoever is designated, they get notified that a student's pattern matches the risk profile, allowing them to reach out proactively.
To the student, the family.
Right. To offer support, understand the barriers, intervene before absenteeism becomes a deeply rooted problem that really hurts their learning. It's using data intelligence for faster, targeted student support.
That's a really clear link between efficiency and actually helping kids. Okay, let's talk resources. Budgets, supplies. You even mentioned substitute teachers and buses. How does AI help optimize allocating all of that?
It brings a level of analysis and optimization that honestly was just impossible before with spreadsheets. For budgeting and procurement, for instance.
Yeah.
AI can analyze years of spending records, link it to enrollment projections, even predict how many supplies a specific course schedule might need. This leads to much more accurate budget forecasts.
So you know what you'll likely need next year.
More precisely, yes. It helps anticipate needs for things like textbooks or new laptops, informs smarter purchasing, reduces waste, and helps prevent those situations where a classroom runs out of something essential.
Few emergency orders, maybe?
Hopefully. And think about substitute teacher deployment. That morning scramble we talked about.
Right.
When a teacher calls out, the AI system can instantly scan the subdatabase. It checks qualifications needed for that specific class, considers who's geographically closest, and flags the best matches.
And it contacts them.
The source says it can automate the communication and assignment process. That alone is a huge time and stress saver on those chaotic mornings.
I bet. Turning chaos into smooth process. What about getting kids to school? The buses.
For transportation and logistics, yeah. The source actually compares it to algorithms used by companies like UPS or FedEx.
Ah, route optimization.
Exactly. AI can design much more efficient bus routes. It factors in all the student addresses, school locations, real-time traffic data, bus sizes. The outcome: less fuel used, lower transport costs for the district.
And hopefully shorter rides for students.
And shorter rides for students, which everyone appreciates.
Definitely. Okay, what about other routine stuff like enrolling new students or just keeping parents in the loop?
AI is streamlining a lot of that high-volume admin work, too. For admissions and enrollment, think about AI chatbots on the school website.
Answering common questions.
Right, 24/7. Handling those frequent inquiries from parents or students frees up the office staff for more complex issues. AI can also help automate processing documents. And importantly, for school boards, it can generate really accurate enrollment forecasts using demographic and historical data. That's vital for long-term planning.
So the office isn't just answering the same 5 questions all day long.
Basically, yeah. And for parent communication, AI can automate those routine but important messages.
Like what kind of messages?
Personalized alerts if a student has an unexplained absence, sent automatically. Reminders about upcoming events or deadlines. Even customized updates on student progress, pulling data from other school systems. It makes sure parents get key info quickly and reliably, without staff having to manually send out hundreds of messages.
Okay, so we've seen the problems, the iceberg, and how AI offers specific tools, scheduling, attendance, resources, communication. But what's the big picture impact, the ultimate payoff of all this efficiency? What's the ripple effect beyond just a smoother running office?
Yeah, this is really where it connects back to the core mission. The biggest ripple effect is probably the reduced administrative burden and increased focus for school leaders and their staff.
Meaning principals and vice principals.
Exactly. It frees them from getting so deeply bogged down in logistics, paperwork, manual data crunching, all that operational stuff.
And where does that reclaimed time and focus actually go?
The source is very clear on this. It lets them dedicate their time and skills to their primary role, which is instructional leadership.
Okay, what does that mean in practice?
Spending more time in classrooms, coaching and supporting teachers, observing instruction, engaging directly with students, building stronger relationships with parents and the community. Their focus shifts from managing the machine to leading the learning.
That feels incredibly important. Leaders focused on teaching quality, student well-being.
Absolutely critical. And then there's the financial angle we touched on.
Right, the resource reallocation.
Exactly, the reallocation of resources to learning. When a district saves money, maybe through more efficient busing, smarter energy use in buildings, better purchasing, needing fewer staff hours for routine tasks, those are actual dollars freed up.
And they can be reinvested.
The source stresses that these savings aren't just absorbed. The goal is to reinvest them directly back into the classroom environment.
Okay, reinvesting directly. What does that look like? What kind of things could schools do with that freed up money based on the source?
Well, it could mean funding more up-to-date library books or online resources, investing in newer classroom technology for students, potentially supporting smaller class sizes where that's feasible, or hiring more support staff like educational assistants, tutors, counselors, people who work directly with students needing extra help.
So taking money that was tied up in just running the system and pushing it straight into things that directly impact the kids' learning experience.
That's the potential. Efficiency isn't just a buzzword. It can mean tangible improvements for students and teachers.
And what about for the decision makers higher up? District leaders, maybe even the ministry.
For them, AI provides powerful tools for data-driven strategic leadership. They get a much clearer, more comprehensive, often real-time view of how the entire system is operating.
Like efficiency metrics, resource use.
Exactly. Efficiency data, how resources are being used across different schools, enrollment trends. This allows for much more informed decisions. Things like long-term planning for new schools or renovations, how budgets get distributed across the district.
And potentially making that distribution fair.
Yes, the source specifically notes that data can help allocate resources more equitably, ensuring schools with greater needs actually receive proportionate support based on evidence, not just historical patterns.
Okay, so summing all that up, does making the behind-the-scenes stuff run better ultimately make the whole school experience better for everyone involved? Students, parents, staff.
That's the goal, yes. An efficiently run school, underpinned by these streamlined processes, should lead to an improved experience for the entire school community. Parents get quicker answers, clearer communication, students might have smoother schedules, maybe shorter bus rides. Staff spend less time fighting administrative hurdles.
It all contributes to a more positive environment.
Yeah, a more positive, functional, and supportive atmosphere overall.
It really sounds like a potentially massive transformation.
Yeah.
But applying AI, this powerful tech, in a sensitive environment like schools, there's got to be challenges, right? Hurdles to actually implementing this.
Oh, absolutely. The source is very clear that implementation is not simple. It's not just plug and play. One of the biggest initial hurdles is purely technical: data integration.
Meaning getting different systems to talk to each other.
Precisely. Schools and districts often have crucial data stuck in separate silos. You know, the student information system, the finance software, the HR platform. Often these are older systems that weren't designed to connect.
So the AI needs data from all of them.
To work most effectively, yes. Getting these different systems to share data seamlessly, overcoming those silos, standardizing formats, that can be a really significant technical challenge.
Okay, connecting the digital plumbing is step one. What else?
Yeah.
We touched on privacy.
Yes, and that's paramount. Data privacy and security. We're talking about incredibly sensitive information about children, their families, school staff. Any AI system handling this requires absolutely watertight security measures.
And compliance with laws.
Strict compliance. The source specifically mentions Canadian privacy legislation. Protecting this data isn't just a technical issue. It's fundamental to maintaining public trust. You absolutely cannot compromise on this.
Security and privacy are non-negotiable. Are there deeper ethical questions the source brings up beyond just keeping data safe?
Yes, definitely. The source highlights a couple of key ethical minefields. One is the risk around algorithmic fairness in resource allocation.
Fairness, how so?
Well, imagine an AI model is making recommendations about where to allocate budget funds or extra support staff. If that AI was trained on historical data,
And that historical data reflects past biases or inequalities.
exactly, then the AI might inadvertently learn and perpetuate those same biases. It could end up recommending fewer resources for already disadvantaged communities simply because that's what the historical pattern showed.
Wow. So it could actually make inequality worse if you're not careful.
It's a serious risk. The source emphasizes that equity must be a core design principle right from the start when building and deploying these tools. You have to actively design against bias.
That's critical. What's the other major ethical area mentioned?
It falls under the ethics of automation and potential surveillance. Remember the computer vision for attendance?
Right, the facial recognition idea.
Technologies like that, while potentially efficient, raise really profound ethical questions in a school context. Questions about surveillance, student consent, the kind of environment we want in schools, privacy.
It's not just about whether it works, but whether it's right for a school.
Precisely. Efficiency can't trump fundamental rights and trust. The source strongly suggests that these kinds of potentially invasive technologies require really broad community consultation and careful ethical vetting before even considering implementation.
Okay, so major technical hurdles, critical data privacy and security needs, and these deep ethical considerations around fairness and surveillance. What about the people, the staff, who actually have to use these new AI tools?
That's another huge piece of the puzzle. Change management and staff training. This isn't just installing new software, it's often a fundamental shift in how people do their jobs.
This requires a different way of working.
Yes. Administrative staff, even school leaders, need comprehensive training. Not just click here, type this, but understanding how the AI works, how to interpret its recommendations, how to validate the output.
And how their own roles might change.
Exactly. Learning to work with the AI as a partner, trusting its outputs where appropriate, but also knowing when to override it. This requires buy-in, addressing fears about job displacement, and a willingness to adapt workflows. It's a significant cultural shift.
So it's as much about people as it is about technology.
Absolutely. And related to that, there's the initial cost and ROI. These AI systems can be a substantial upfront investment.
A barrier for some school boards.
Definitely,
Well-
especially for smaller or less well-funded districts. You need a really clear, convincing case for the long-term return on investment, showing the projected savings in time and money to justify that initial cost.
Makes sense. And one last challenge. What if the AI gets it wrong? A big scheduling mistake, a flawed budget recommendation. Who's ultimately responsible?
That's the crucial question of accountability. The source is firm on this. AI can provide incredibly powerful analysis and recommendations, but you cannot just delegate responsibility to the algorithm.
Humans have to stay in the loop.
Humans must remain accountable. There need to be clear lines of human oversight and accountability for all final decisions that impact students, staff, or resources. The AI is a tool, a powerful assistant, but people have to own the outcomes.
Okay. This has been a really thorough exploration. We've looked at that huge administrative iceberg, how AI tools are targeting key areas like scheduling, attendance, resource use, the potentially massive benefits of freeing up time and money for learning, but also these really significant challenges around data, ethics, cost, and just the human side of implementation. So as we wrap up, what's the big picture? What's the overall vision for AI in running schools, according to the source?
Well, the source concludes that while AI in the classroom gets a lot of hype, its impact on school administration might actually be its most practical and foundational contribution right now, here in mid-2025.
More practical than classroom AI.
In many ways, yes, because it tackles these core operational complexities that underpin everything else. It offers tangible tools to automate and optimize the essential business of running a school or a district.
So it's about efficiency, yes.
Yep.
But you said earlier it's efficiency with a purpose.
Exactly. That's the key takeaway. By tackling that administrative burden, by unlocking those efficiencies, AI lets schools operate more effectively. But the real prize, the source emphasizes, is the chance to strategically reinvest those freed up resources, both people's time and budget dollars, directly back into the core mission.
Back into teaching and learning.
Right. It's about empowering educators, principals focusing on leadership, teachers getting more support, maybe more resources in the classroom. It's seen as a really critical lever for improving public education systems, not just here in Canada, but potentially worldwide.
But realizing that potential means tackling those challenges head on.
Absolutely. The source stresses that success requires a very clear-eyed approach. You have to nail data privacy and security. You have to design for fairness and actively fight bias. You need thoughtful change management to bring staff along. It's not a magic bullet.
And the future isn't AI running schools by itself.
No, not at all. The source concludes the vision is for an intelligent partnership.
An intelligent partnership, AI handling the complex mechanics.
Right. Handling the operational complexities, the data crunching, the optimization, so that the humans, the educators, can focus their energy on the deeply personal, relationship-driven work of teaching and supporting students.
That's the vision then. Using AI for the intricate business side to free up people for the human side of education.
That sums it up well. Leveraging AI's power for the complex logistics allows the people within the school to focus on what truly matters, building connections, sparking curiosity, fostering growth. That's the impactful work.
That really is a compelling thought. Imagine what actually becomes possible in our classrooms when those administrative tasks that used to consume weeks of precious human time are handled in just hours by an intelligent system. What's the ultimate impact on student potential? When every possible resource, every dollar saved, every hour of leadership time reclaimed is channeled directly and strategically into their learning experience.
It's a future worth striving for, definitely, but thoughtfully.
Indeed. Well, thank you for walking us through this deep dive today. It's been fascinating unpacking how AI is starting to reshape the engine room of education.
My pleasure. It's a really vital area, I think, with huge potential if we get it right.
And if you, our listener, enjoyed exploring these insights with us, please do consider subscribing or following our channel, Tech, AI, and Beyond, for more deep dives where we try to make complex topics clear. Thanks so much for listening.